My editor at Vanity Fair, a great guy named Cullen Murphy, who'd been at The Atlantic for many years, about 3.5 years ago was aware of the anniversary coming up, and he suggested I take a look at the topic because it's always generally been a chapter or a section in somebody's book and not a book of its own. So he thought there would be some interest in the anniversary, and the minute I did any research, I realized what a powerful story it is because it stands in such contrast to the present day dysfunction in Washington. And while I don't beat the reader over the head with those comparisons, I don't even really overtly make them. They're so obvious and they're so there for the taking that I thought it would be a compelling story in the face of what we're dealing with now in Washington. And the more I looked into it, the more I was sure that was true. I do think some lessons could be learned, one of which is, in those days, people get taken to task for saying this, and you have to be careful not to romanticize it, but members really did know each other. They knew each other across party lines, their families and kids knew each other, their spouses socialized with each other, and it was much harder to treat people with personal contempt or disrespect if you'd been in their home the night before or the week before. So I think that was really real. I think a lot of this was able to happen in secret. I know it sounds strange for journalists to praise that, but the truth is these negotiations happened behind closed doors where people could test out positions. They didn't have to have their talking points for C-SPAN or the nightly news. Their pollsters weren't urging them to raise money by the weekend for it. That was a key thing. And this is another thing that may sound odd, but they drank. They drank copious amounts in midday, all day long. And I think in some weird way it loosened their inhibitions and they did know each other more as people. And I think none of those things are really so doable today, but I think the overriding issue, that of mutual respect and understanding, even for people with whom you disagreed, and disagreed pretty violently. We like to think we live in a uniquely divided age. This was practically a second Civil War 50 years ago, and we remember what was going on in the streets. But perversely, Congress could in fact get along. Now the country as a whole gets along better than we do in Washington, and it's exactly the reverse. We are very entrenched in the gridlock at the moment. On the other hand, as a country, we've gotten through a lot of turmoil in the past. We got through the Civil War, after all. And perversely, 50, 60 years ago, many political scientists felt that the problem with United States politics was that there wasn't enough division. There wasn't enough partisan competition in that sort of the Eisenhower era, that there was too much consensus and would be better off with harsher delineations between the parties. Well, we've certainly got that now. The problem is we have a constitutional system, not a parliamentary system. If this were a parliamentary system, President Obama would have majorities in both houses of Congress. He had a hard time getting things done even when that was true. But now we have, by the framers' intent, we have divided government. We have these multiple power centers. And just because the president of one party is in the White House doesn't mean he has the legislature following him, as would happen in England or something. So I think there's a mismatch between the intensity of our politics and the structures we have to work them out. The framers intended that compromise would be the watchword, and that they set up the Congress and particularly the Senate to be bulky and difficult to get things through. But I don't think they ever envisioned that every judicial nomination or every cabinet confirmation or the shape of the table would prompt a filibuster. Absolutely. If masses of people got together on questions like gun control or immigration, and I understand that there are structural problems again with the Congress. The thing that's hard to know now is what could move members, say Republican members, in a district that's so safely Republican, but they're worried about getting crosswise with the NRA or with anti-immigration groups. So I think it's harder, but I mean, people really are only one rally, only one postcard, only one organizational meeting away from doing something about it. And I think the lesson of our democracy is that, the politicians in Washington will take change seriously if people are demanding it.